So ball's bouncing around, paddle's moving around good. Now let's move on to the actual game interaction. So when the ball hits these blocks, we need to delete them. When we delete them, we need to add to our score. When we add to score, we need to update our GUI. When we hit the wall behind us, behind the paddle, we need to reset the ball and start again. So come over here to Unity, and we're going to do this all in the ball script, just like we did on the last one. So make sure you open back up your break ball script, and we're going to do this in the on collision enter. So when we collide with something, we want to know what we're colliding with. If it's a block, delete it. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if we're just making a breakout game, we'd probably use game tags, game object tags that make sense. So for example, block might be a good game object tag to know that we hit a block. And instead of using right paddle, it could just be paddle. But again, I'm just reusing what we've already done just to make it easier on us. So the big thing I want you to make note of is, remember I used at least the right paddle for my paddle down below. If you use the left paddle, then you're going to just be opposite of me. But what I want you to pay attention to is remember that the blocks themselves, we actually used the opposite paddle. So right now I have all my blocks, or all the blocks should be, tagged with left paddle. So we want to make note of that, and we're going to use that in our collision. So what I'm going to do is just copy my if statement. You can type it if you want. Put an extra closing curly brace here. And basically, when I hit the right paddle, what do I want to do? Well, I want to call the destroy command. And it uses parentheses with a semicolon at the end, and we need to send to it what we are destroying. Well, we're destroying the object that we hit, which is the paddle, but it needs a game object. So we have to use obj.gameObject. Okay, so because right now obj is a collision 2D type variable, so we have to this is going up one step to the original game object. We also need to make sure that we hit the left paddle. So we switch our tag to left paddle, come over here, save it, hit play, let it compile, and see what happens here. So when I hit the paddle, it should go up, hit a block, and delete the blocks. And you're going to see it's going to constantly delete the blocks. But the only thing here is we don't have any score track. So what do we need? Well, the last time we created variables. So we're going to do just that. So at the top, we can do this all in one. So if you remember, if you need a reference, I can reference my ball script here. What did I do? Well, I had left score and right score. So really, I only need one for score, set it out at 0. And then to go along with that, while I'm at it, since I kind of remember, I know I need some kind of text component along with the Unity engine UI. So I can just copy paste that over and then make another variable to plug in text for score text, something like this, okay, as our variable. Score and score text. And then if you remember down here, and you forget what we did this thing. We said the text component, set it to string, whatever this variable is. So just like we down here with the left paddle, we can say score plus plus, which is the variable we're using now. And then the variable I used for the text GUI component was score text. So access the text component and set it equal to the score variable, but call the toString method on it to convert it from integer to string. So now we just added this as your new section of code along with your variables up above. Hit save, go back over to Unity, let it compile, make sure you have no errors. We need to go to our ball here, and if you notice here, our score text is now looking for a reference to our text object, and that is in our canvas. And right now I have it called right text. We could change the name, but for now I'm not going to worry about that. All I need to do is have the ball selected here, drag in the right text, make that connection, hit play, and let's see if our score updates. There's 2, 3, and so on. But now we have a problem, which is what happens behind the wall? Well, that's kind of like the lives go away, or we could have lives and stuff. Also, notice our score is above 10, and I only have a single digit. So there's another error we came across, which is the size of our text component. And that's this up here. So zoom out, and I can see that my text component is really small. So I'm going to make sure to make this a little bit bigger, but move it back to the center so that we can still see it like that. Now I'll know that works. So we can focus now on restarting the ball, similar to what we did with Pong. In this case, I don't have a tag for the wall. I really have a tag for the right wall and the left wall. And we could use those tags again by untagging things, but in this case, I'm just going to create a new tag. So add tag, and this will be the, I'll call this the death wall for now, because then we can also use that in the next game, Space Invaders. So death wall is going to be this wall back here. So I'm going to tag this wall with death wall. Make note of how you spell it, because then we can go into coding and do the same if obj.gameObject.tag is equal to death wall, just as I spell it. What do we want to do? Well, just like our ball script, open that back up. What did we do to reset? Well, we set the position to somewhere. We set the velocity to 0. We worried about a direction, which we don't have to on this one, but we invoked. So I'm going to copy these two lines so I don't have to type them, because I know I typed them correctly, and then you don't have to worry about errors. And also the invoke start ball 1. Now here's the deal though. This, we can close the ball script. This transform position new vector 3 0 0 0 0 0 0 in our scene is actually right in the middle, kind of where this camera is covering up. And we really don't want that. We want the ball down here. So what I want you to do is reference and get a close location. I did this when I first was setting it up, but I got a number of 0 and -3. And those are the numbers I'm going to use for in here. My new vector 3 is going to be 0, comma, -3, comma, 0. Everything else should work then just fine. Reset the ball to 0, make the velocity 0 as well so it doesn't move, and then invoke start ball, and then start ball will just move the ball down. Save, come over here, hit play, and see that when we go behind the wall, if I can get it to go, it resets to 0, and you kind of got to give it a second, and you could play with that. So I had the ball reset at 1 second. We could change this to 2. That might be easier, especially since the paddle moves a little slower, and you can play with all those variables. Now that's Breakout. We could have lives, give them 5 balls to try to break all the bricks, but basically from there, what other things can you add to your game for Breakout? We could add collectibles, make the paddle longer, all sorts of things that you've probably played with a Breakout style game. From here, we're going to stop and do a new game after this.